We got a new trade for you, and this one is from the 60s. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Guitar Gear Trader channel. I'm Steve. This is my new, to me, 1965 Gibson SG Junior. And today I want to talk about how I acquired this guitar in a trade. And that was the whole point of this channel at the beginning. And these are my favorite episodes, telling you how I get and acquire guitars through trading other stuff that I have. But first, if you could do me a favor, please subscribe, hit that bell, give me a like on the video, so comment down below, tell me if you like the video, tell me if you dislike the video, tell me if you like the trade, if I did a good job on the trade, could I have done better, what do you think? Do you have a guitar like this? Do you have a 60s SG Junior? Do you have an LP Junior? You let me know in the comments. I want to hear your stories. I would post any of your stories and your pictures that you want to send me at guitargeartrader@gmail.com. I'll share those pictures on my live stream, which is every Sunday afternoon, and I can't wait to share those with everybody and talk about this guitar. So let's get into it. So if you've been watching the channel, great, and thank you. If you haven't been watching the channel, that's okay. You can always catch up by going into my videos on my playlists. But if you have been watching, you'll know that a couple of weeks back I traded a Gibson J200 acoustic, big jumbo bodied acoustic from Gibson, for a 1971 Gibson Les Paul Custom in ebony. I'm going to link that video down below, and I'll also link it at the end of this video. I had a little bit of a predicament because I had already had or owned a modern 2024 Gibson Les Paul Custom. Basically the same. It was all black. It came with chrome, it came with nickel hardware, and I had changed everything to gold. The only thing I didn't change on that guitar were the pickups and the covers. It came without covers. It came with uncovered pickups. And I bought gold covers, but the magnets didn't line up with the holes in the pickup covers, so I decided not to put them on. I just left them blank. They were zebra custom bucker pickups in that Les Paul. My intention, if you watch the other video, was to immediately sell the said 1971 Les Paul Custom. And my thinking was this. What I was going to do was I found a guitar at Carter's Vintage in Nashville, and it was a 1967 Gibson 355 in cherry red with the big vibrato on it, the big Maestro vibrato. It was the same vibrato as this, but with the long piece at the bottom. It had the Veritone switch on it. It had, all the fancy binding, fancy headstock. If you know the 335 style guitars or the ES guitars from Gibson, the 335 has the dots on the neck like this. The 345 has the split trapezoids in the fretboard, and the 355 is basically like the custom model of the 335. It's like the Les Paul Custom version of the 335, where it has the ebony board, block inlays, Maestro vibrola, the fancy trapezoids on the headstock, and everything like that. And I was going to trade my 1971 335 as well as that 1971 Les Paul Custom for that guitar at Carter's, and I was going to give him $1,000, which I still think would have been a pretty good deal, considering that's one of my bucket list guitars. And I'm going to do an episode of bucket list guitars, spoiler alert, you're going to know one of them. But that was the guitar that Marty McFly played in the Back to the Future movies. That guitar, spawned a lot of young kids that wanted to play guitar, and that's a lot of dream guitars for a lot of people. So when I saw that this guitar was on Carter's Vintage, they wanted $8,300 for it, or $8,500 for it. and they were willing to give me $6,500 for the two guitars, the 71 Les Paul Custom and the 71 335. Now I knew I wasn't getting near the value that those guitars were worth. I probably could have sold the 71 Custom probably for $5,000 or $6,000 if I was being realistic about it and wanted to put it on Reverb or Facebook Marketplace or something like that. For the 335, they actually offered me more for the 335. They offered me $3,500 for the 335 and $3,000 for the Les Paul. And I got to thinking, like, I can't give up two vintage guitars for a combined $6,500 and then pay an extra $2,000 on top because they wanted $8,500. So I called them and I said, hey, listen, I appreciate the offer, but would you mind coming down $1,000 to $7,500 on the guitar? And they said, yeah, they would. So now I'm like, oh no, okay. I still thought that those two guitars were worth well more than the $6,500 that they were offering me. And the other thing was, the Les Paul played really, really well. I was doing this whole deal and I didn't even have the 71 Les Paul yet. So when I picked up the 71 Les Paul and I played it, I fell in love with the guitar, and I called up Carter's and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do the trade. Something came up and I'm not gonna be able to do it. So I kept the 71, and I've had my eye on this guitar for a long time. There's a guy here in Nashville that I trade with very, very frequently. His name is Griffin. You can probably find him if you search him on Facebook Marketplace, however you do that. His name is Griffin Kranz. I think his side hustle, I think he tries to produce, he's a producer of some kind, but I know his side hustle is that he buys and sells guitars, and most of the stuff that he has some type of break, or it's stamped second, or there's usually something wrong with the guitars that he sells. Now, when I say something wrong, I mean like they've most likely had some type of repair in the past. Or they've been stamped second. So he gets them at a really good price, and then he sells them for a decent price as well. Sometimes he can be overpriced, but sometimes he's pretty good. I do a lot of trading with him, so he can't be that overpriced. But this is probably the fourth or fifth guitar that I've traded with him for. And I called him up and I was like, listen, man, I think he wanted $5,500 for this guitar. And he had this listed as a 1966 SG Junior. Now, like I said, normally the stuff that he sells has cracks in it, or has had a repair or a crack in it. And this guitar is kind of, you know, it's a player for sure. It has lots of finish checking in it. You can't really see it, but it's fine finish checking. That's why I like normal finish checking, like regular aging, rather than the Murphy Lab, because I have a Murphy Lab SG that's brand new, and the aging on this guitar that's actually 50 years old, 50 something years old, is actually less prominent than the aging on the new Murphy Lab one. But it has its dings. You can see here it's missing some finish there. But this doesn't have a headstock crack. Normally the stuff that he sells has a headstock crack, and this one doesn't. This headstock is perfect. Okay, it's got my 6-number serial number on there. Does not have a second stamp on it, which a lot of his stuff does. If his stuff doesn't have a repair on it, it typically has some type of second stamp on it. It does have just finish checking, but nothing seems to be structural, right? There's lots of stuff on here, but nothing seems to be structurally bad. So I had called him up and I said, listen, you know, would you mind trading me this guitar, the SG, for this a brand new mod shop Gibson Les Paul? I think it's a 68 reissue Les Paul Custom. I was like, brand new, it's mint, has no wear on it. I have all the tags and everything else. And he was a little reluctant because he likes to get something other than a guitar in any type of trade. And I was like, listen, man, I've given you, I've lost out on most trades that I've done with him, only because I really wanted the guitars that he had. And I chose to offer more so that I can make sure I get the guitars that I wanted from him. And I was okay taking a little bit of a hit because I really wanted the guitars that he had. So I was like, listen, man, do me a solid here. I was like, we're only about 500 bucks off from where we want to be with each other. You've had this guitar for a while on Facebook. No one's touched it for whatever reason. I don't know why. He didn't have it crazy priced. They're all priced very similar on Reverb. Maybe one or two people on Reverb had theirs for a little bit cheaper. But I was like, listen, I've lost out on almost every deal I've ever done with you purposely, you know, of my own accord. But would you do me a solid? I really want this guitar, and you know, let's try to make it work. He's like, how about we just, you know, throw me $100 on top of it? So I said, fine, I'll throw you $100 and I'll give you the guitar. I personally think I did really, really well. A brand new Les Paul custom that retails, those 68 reissues retail for, I think, around $6,000. And I got myself a true vintage 60s SG Junior. I've always wanted a Junior. And the reason I love Junior so much is because of Charlie Starr from Blackberry Smoke. I'm a big Blackberry Smoke fan. I love Charlie. And he just makes these things rip. And one thing that I heard him say on an interview was that, you know, he was playing and he realized that he never switched to the neck pickup. And he's like, why the hell do I need a neck pickup for if I never even use it anyway? And that's a really good point, because I'm a rhythm guitar player, and I'm very rarely on any other pickup than the bridge pickup. Sometimes every now and then, if I want to clean up a little bit, I'll go to the middle position and use both of them. But typically I'm just riding that bridge pickup because the stuff that I do typically has a lot of gain on it, and I want to get as, you know, punchy sound as I can. And I'll give you a little taste of how punchy this thing can get. But Charlie Starr makes these things just sing like crazy. And he, you know, you have to get creative with the tone and volume, because there's only one volume and one tone switch here. So you got to play with those to get, you know, the right sound that you want. But this is all original. I brought it home. I took it apart. The only thing that's not original was this guitar did not come with the arm, the Maestro arm. It came with the Maestro, you know, tailpiece here, but it was missing the arm. And I got the arm from Crazy Parts. Give them a little shout out. Crazy Parts, which is in Germany. The store's in Germany. Found this on Reverb, and it was $20 for just the arm. It came with the arm and it came with the hardware to put the arm on. And yeah, find them on Reverb, Crazy Parts. There's the phone number if you want to take a screenshot of it. I don't think you're gonna call Germany, but you can just go on Reverb and find it. And if you can't find the store, just type in like Maestro Vibrola arm, and it'll come up. But I took this whole thing apart. I took the pickup out. Pickup's original. The pot codes were a little difficult to find. I'm gonna show you a picture of that. But I want to give you guys a little history of the SG Junior before we get into hearing it with some gain on it. All right, so here we got my my cool little thumbnail. That is the guitar. You can see the picture there. It does not have the Maestro arm on it, and that's how I got it. And I just got the arm yesterday, so just in time to make this video. But this is a 65 SG Junior. So the SG Junior, or the Les Paul Junior, I should say, was introduced into the Gibson lineup along with the Les Paul Custom in 1954. So it's amazing how both of those guitars came into existence kind of at the same time. There is something called a special, and that'll be a whole nother episode, the difference between a special and a junior. But essentially they're the same guitar. One just has two pickups and one has one pickup. But they were both introduced into the lineup, the Custom and the Junior, in 1954. It was a beginner's guitar, really. It's made for students. It's very simple. There's not a lot of frills on it. And it was later picked up greatly and adopted by a lot of punk bands and alternative bands. Most notably, probably, you know, Green Day. Billy Joe Armstrong has his own Les Paul Junior. You can see a picture there of John Lennon playing his Les Paul Junior that he modified with different pickups. That was the Madison Square Garden show. You have Neil Young there on the screen as well. But there you have my boy Charlie Starr, who recently got his own signature model Les Paul Junior. that comes with the cool "Hey Y'all" sticker on the back of his guitar. He's got a "Hey Y'all" sticker on the back, and that whole package comes with that sticker, which is really, really cool. The guitar is made of solid mahogany. The neck and body are all mahogany. It's an unbound rosewood fretboard. It has dot inlays. It has Kluson tuners. I'll show you the tuners right there. It's like that 3-in-a-line tuner system. And the Juniors have the single P90 pickup. The specials, the Les Paul specials, are the same guitar, but they have 2 P90 pickups, and they are typically soap bar instead of the dog ears like these. And here you can kind of see the evolution of the Junior. So from 54 to 58, they looked basically like Les Pauls, single cut Les Pauls, with 1 P90 and that cool guard that I have on this guitar. In 1961, they introduced the SG body shape. Okay, and they started putting Les Pauls. These were still called Les Paul Juniors up until 1963, where you can see the headstock is just a plain black headstock with the Gibson logo on top, just like mine. So mine is not a Les Paul Junior. Mine is an SG Junior. But in 1961, these were called Les Paul Juniors because they discontinued the Les Paul itself. And they were switching these guitars to be the Les Paul guitars. Well, Les Paul did not like that at all. Les Paul hated this guitar, and he didn't want his name attached to it. So in 1963, or late 1963 and early 1964, they had to take the name Les Paul off of these, or else these would have had Les Paul model, and then maybe the word Junior on it, Les Paul Junior on the headstock, because these were Les Paul guitars in this shape, in this body shape. Even the regular SGs, the SG Standard, the SG Custom, those were considered to be Les Pauls as well. You can go find early 60s Les Paul, Gibson Les Pauls that have SG body shapes. Okay, and SG stands for solid guitar. And they were actually calling these Juniors solid guitars up until Les Paul wanted his name off of these, and then that name just stuck for this model. In 66, and this is one thing that helped me date the guitar, is you see the beginning of the big guard on the big pick guard on the SG body shape. Okay, so my guitar has that same pick guard that the 1961 picture has, and the 66, they went to that big guard that kind of spans the most of the width of the guitar all the way down, and the pickup is mounted through the pick guard, where here this P90 is drilled directly into the body of the guitar. Okay, and you also see the introduction of that vibrola in 65 and 66. Here is my guitar, and there's a picture of the original case that it came in, that I got with it. I take pictures in my rec room. I have a whole wall of music posters from the Ryman Auditorium and other concerts that I've been to, and I take pictures and I catalog and I document all the guitars that I own. But here you have a picture of the pot code, and this is what led me to believe that this is a 1965 SG Junior, is because the pot code tells me that it is. Now, if you don't know anything about pot codes, in the 60s and 70s, and even could be up till today as well, the pot codes start a lot of times, depending on the company, but Gibson pot codes typically start with the numbers 137. 137 tells you the company that made the pot, and then the next two numbers are going to be the year that it was manufactured. So it's 13765 for this particular pot, and then the last two numbers are 46. So it's 1376546, and I'm assuming that 46 I think is the week that it was produced of that year. So it's the 46th week of 1965, and so this guitar is not any younger than 1965, right? So if it's the original pot potentiometer, I have no reason to believe it's not. I'm pretty sure that before 1965 they did not have the Maestro Vibrola on it. So this Vibrola will tell me that it's either 65 or 66, and the pod code says 65, so I'm going to go with 65. There's no other way for me to tell if it's 65 or 66. If it had the big guard on it, then I would know it was a 66 or even a late 65, early 66. But I'm going to say this is a 1965 SG. The guy who I got it from had it listed as a 66 SG. So yeah. So that is my story for this guitar. So I traded a brand new Les Paul Custom, all ebony. It was a mod shop guitar. So what that means is Gibson has its own little shop that allows their workers basically to take a guitar and to modify it any way they kind of feel like they want to modify it. And that could be something as simple as just changing the pickups. That could be something as, changing the knob colors or something like that. Or it could be what they did with the Les Paul that I had was they changed the pickups, which are normally like the 490 and 498 humbuckers. They changed those to custom buckers, which are amazing pickups. They're really, really good. They were excellent pickups. They left them uncovered. They were zebra bobbins, custom buckers, uncovered, and they changed all the gold, which normally comes on a Les Paul Custom in ebony. They changed that to all to nickel, which I then took off promptly because I love Les Pauls with gold parts. That's the way it should be, in my opinion. I took those off and then changed it all to gold, and then I ended up getting rid of it. So I have a whole box of nickel hardware for a Les Paul Custom. So maybe one of my other guitars will get an upgrade with that stuff later on. But that's the trade, and hopefully I did good. I love this thing. This thing absolutely rips. I would definitely bring this out if I start playing out again, which I intend to do. It does squeal a little bit. P90s are a little unruly sometimes, and this one is no different. But if you put the volume on like 8 or 9, it's really, really nice sounding. So thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, leave a comment, email me or follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Guitar Gear Trader. And like I said, email me any pictures or any stories. I've gotten pictures and stories from people that I've shared on the Sunday live stream. And make sure to check me out on the Sunday live stream. And we talk about guitars. We look at, we go on virtual guitar safari on different cities. So we've looked through Lexington, Kentucky. We've looked through Nashville, Tennessee. We've been on New York City, Craigslists, and Facebook marketplaces. And we've also been to somewhere in Indiana. I can't remember the city. Bloomington, Indiana, I want to say it was. And we found some really cool stuff in Bloomington, Indiana. So if you come on, tell me what city you're on in the live stream, and we'll look in your local social media platforms for some good deals. All right? So thanks, everybody. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you later.